Beneath the ghostly auroras of metallic hydrogen, the once verdant moonscape lay scarred by deep fissures and half-buried ruins. This moon, Lti'kar, orbiting the ice giant formerly, had been colonized 2 centuries ago by Calarian pioneers seeking mining rights to the moon's rare cryometal deposits. Over time, the settlement expanded into a self-sustaining cluster of pressurized domes, biofarms, and thermal reactors. But geological instability and an invasive spore-borne organism had torn it asunder. Starlight glinted off the shattered shards of a collapsed dome as Chief Helmsman Taemon Zahir entered the holoscreen chamber aboard the Astra Vigilant. His 12 copper-tipped antennae trembled with tension. A transmission had pierced Calarian space, a distress beacon from the colony, coded Red R. That code signified imminent collapse, life support failing, bioagent infiltration, groundquakes of Richter 8 magnitude. Taemon Zahir reporting, Captain, he began, voice taut. Through the hollow display, he showed schematic overlays of failing biodomes and colonies sealed by spore mats. Biochemical mismatch, lethal to Calarians, urgent extraction required, he read from the encoded log. Captain Ceres Valon hovered in the methane-lit haze of the control dome. 4 emerald eyes tracked the data feed. They're sending humans to our world, she said, exhaling plumes of methane. Their physiology evolved on a death world. Constant tectonic fury, acid oceans, toxic atmosphere. They call themselves Deathworlders. Draven Core, Navarch and Xeno-Navigator, bristled in his chitin armored suit. A Class 9 race, oxygen breathers, 1G gravity, corrosive atmosphere to Calarians. The Council's rescue protocols demand a war frigate in this scenario. Why send a rescue vessel? Valon's mandibles clicked. The Council's directive: preserve life at all costs. They overrode hazard assessments. This beacon was repeated across 6 systems. Lives are ending by the hour. Communications Officer Lissa Law's bioluminescent fronds pulsed. She tapped the hollow console. Transmission confirms dispatch of the ERV Resolute Nova, a Terran emergency response vessel, not a warship, but aptly named. Draven's antennae flattened. Resolute Nova. They're fearless, named for their tenacity. But that shortcut through Thorn Gap adds more peril. Valon folded her exoskeletal arms. They said, hold tight. We'll be there. Their history proves they run toward danger. Volcanoes, superstorms, nuclear winters. They mastered survival on worlds that eat colonists alive. Taemon swallowed. The hologram faded, replaced by the battered colony map. And we trust those Terran Deathworlders to arrive alive and intact enough to conduct rescue. Valon inclined, her final word echoing like a vow. We must. Aboard the Resolute Nova, Commander Hale Torin stood beneath the trinary data halo, its azure glow casting long shadows across his polished Araxian alloy hull. Around him, the bridge crew moved with clockwork precision. Lieutenant Mira Selas at tactical, Navitech Rosiar monitoring jump coordinates, and bioscientist Odon Kress calibrating the xeno-containment scanners. Status, Torin intoned, voice resonant through the hull's harmonic vents. Celis's visors tracked the encroaching crisis. Colony core integrity at 62%, atmospheric processes failing, bioagent, the CEP spore mats, penetrating hull membranes,
200 life signs in stasis domes, reserves depleting at 3% per standard cycle. Torin's articulated fingers danced over his console. Projected collapse in 10 cycles. Recommend transit via Thorn Gap, ETA 4 cycles. Hull stress at predicted 122% tolerance. Thorn Gap was infamous across surveyed space, a gauntlet of shattered planetoid fragments and unpredictable subspace eddies that could tear a vessel apart in seconds. Gravimetric shear shifted without warning, while high-velocity micrometeoroid streams shredded unshielded plating. Despite these lethal hazards, the Terrans regarded it as a thrilling shortcut, their cheers echoing through the ship as they plotted the course. Rosiar's mandibles clicked in concern. Thorn Gap subspace eddies will punish our compensators. We'll face constant realignment. Torin surveyed the crew. Mira's steady nod, Rosiar's uneasy tilt, Cress's calm detachment. Insanity is relative, he said. We trained for this. Plot the course. Rosiar keyed in ancient star charts salvaged from the wreck of the ellipsoidal beacon. Entering coordinates. Warp field charged. Secondary gravimetric compensators set to 1.25 nominal output. At Enviro Chief Davia Corps station, pressure gauges flickered. She tapped her holoscreen. Auraxian physiology, high-pressure sulfide respiration, standard atmosphere, lethal, suits must remain sealed, bioshield protocols active. Chief Engineer Jin Malva's holoschematics outlined hull integrity. Kuiper belt shortcut will induce microfractures if compensators slip below 18%. We hold a 10-minute margin. Torin nodded. Calculated risk. Initiate warp. Notify Calarian coordinators of adjusted ETA. Silas's holo transceiver chirped. Transmission incoming from Captain Valon. They request immediate subsurface evac guidance and bioshield sync parameters. Torin's dome face reflected purpose. Relay adaptive sync keys will arrive in 4 cycles. As the Resolute Nova surged into the Thorn Gap, the bridge lights dimmed, the spindrift of subspace debris streaking the viewports like ghostly comets. Torin's silver blades reverberated with each gravitational surge, yet he stood unwavering, an emblem of interspecies solidarity.
6 hours later, at the Lti'kar's crater docking bay, the shuttle descended. The docking bay of the colony's crash-landing cradle reverberated with hydraulic groans as the Resolute Nova's shuttle settled. Jagged stalactites of metallic hydrogen ice clung precariously from the bay ceiling, dripping methane condensate that hissed on impact. First helmsman Draven Core pressed his palm plates to the reinforced bulkhead, antennae quivering at the unsettling sight of the shuttle's dark, angular hull. Its plunge drives glowed cobalt, arcs dancing along reinforced struts. Alien. Predatory. Captain Ceres Valon stepped forward, chassis exuding calm authority. She bowed in the Calarian greeting, upper limbs pressed together before her chest. Commander Torin of the Resolute Nova, welcome. Your arrival is timely, if unexpected. Commander Hale Torin's silver dome face reflected the bay lights as he returned the gesture in his own species salute. Two interlocked alloy fingers over his crystalline pseudo-heart. "Captain Valon, we come prepared." He gestured to his team lumbering down the ramp behind him. Lieutenant Mira Salas, clutching a case of atmosphere-rated stabilizer canisters. Bioscientist Odon Kress, cradling a modular spore containment array. Enviro Chief Davia core adjustment wrenches at the ready. Draven's mandibles clicked in a question. Torin nodded toward his cargo. Atmos regs tuned for Auraxian sulfide balance, but switchable to Calarian methane. Spore-neutral sprays calibrated for CEP resilience. We've stationed 3 rescue pods for immediate deployment. Valon's emerald eyes flickered with relief. Our southern dome's subsurface conduits are failing. 4 sectors offline. We've initiated standard evac protocols, but colonists are isolated within the confinement grids. Torin's articulated fingers flexed. "Lead us to the breach coordinates. We'll synchronize bioshield frequencies and deploy our rapid seal drones." At that moment, Communications Officer Lissa Law's fronds pulsed red. Her multi-lensed gaze fixed a hollow emitter. "Incoming from sector control, gamma bay venting. Pressure drop across the southern biodome. Critical." Valon's mandibles snapped into a precise click. "Commander, permission to engage emergency response." Torin inclined once. "You have it. Let us save your people." Red sirens reverberated through the hatchways as Lissa Law's hollow projections sputtered to life. "Sector Gamma alert. Multiple decompression breaches in southern biodome." Captain Valon's mandibles snapped to attention. "Colonists to emergency shelters. Now. Navark Core. Seal bulkheads Alpha through Delta. Tamman, prep the asteroid tugs for evac shuttles." Torin barked orders in his resonant tone. "Silas, Rosiar, deploy portable atmosphere stabilizers at nodes 3, 5, and 7. Core, launch seal drones. Kress, ready the spore neutralizer canisters." They arrived at Corridor 7, where the polymer-reinforced walls were punctured by writhing purple filaments. The atmosphere hissed out, methane-rich air mixing with lethal oxygen. 48 colonists huddled behind collapsed support beams, their multi-limbed frames trembling. Torin dropped a stabilizer canister. It hissed methane, billowing a protective shroud. Core's drones emitted high-pitched whines as they patched fractures. Kress approached the filament mass, spraying her alkaline cocktail. The filaments recoiled, blackening into brittle ash, but then surged back, more aggressive. A tremor rattled the corridor. Concrete dust fell like snow. Rosiar shouted, "Structural integrity at 18%. 85 minutes to collapse." Valon whispered urgently, "We must extract the colonists before the dome gives way." Torin's dome face reflected grim determination. "To central habitat. Lead the way, Navark." Draven took the lead, antennas quivering but steady. He guided them through maintenance conduits, bypassing collapsed sections. Each step echoed with distant groans of failing supports. Filaments clung to the cables above, swaying as if alive. At the habitat's entrance, colonists pressed against the reinforced door. Atmos reserves flickered at 11%. Torin powered open the hatch with his alloy plating, steam venting in a cloud. He signaled everyone inside, then placed thermite charges at the filament clusters blocking the passage to the emergency exit tube. 30-second fuse, he announced. Before they could retreat, the filaments lunged, snaking around his leg. With a cry, Draven leapt between them, wielding a plasma cutter he'd scavenged from the maintenance grid. Sparks flew as he severed a thick filament, buying Torin enough time. Torin activated the thermite, its hot glow searing the corridor. The filaments writhed in agony before crumbling. Valon pulled the colonists into the tube as tremors grew violent. "Forward," Torin commanded. The emergency evacuation tube constricted around them, emergency luminodes flickering in the advancing gloom. Torin took position at the rear, suppressor charges slung across his alloy frame, while Valon and Chief Core shepherded colonists through the narrowing corridor. Behind them, a lethal bioagent wreathed the walls, acid-laced tendrils writhing toward any hint of methane or heat. Suddenly, a violent tremor sheared the tube floor beneath them. A yawning chasm opened just ahead, vertical rupture at least 3 meters deep, bridged only by fractured supports. Torin assessed the breach in an instant. The collapse eliminated their fallback route. Improvisation was their only option. "Engineer Malv," he called. Jin Malva sprang forward, deploying a compact toolkit of adaptive nanite welders and telescoping support struts. With Torin's guidance, she released the nanites, molecular repair bots programmed to fuse the fractured alloy framework. The bots swarmed the split beams, stitching the metal at speeds far surpassing conventional welders. Simultaneously, telescoping struts extended, locking into serrated indents carved into the tube walls. Within seconds, a makeshift truss formed, a narrow walkway illuminated by the nanites' blue glow. Rosier checked his grav field scanner. Bridge holds at 90% stress. Cross carefully, 2 at a time. "Agreed," Torin replied. Suppressor charges primed at breach for blocking further agent ingress. Fuse set to 20 seconds. Colonists shuffled across, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder at the human-engineered bridge. As the last group reached the far side, Torin keyed his comm. "Charge timer live." The bioagent surged, acidic filaments lashing at the supports. Torin braced himself, planting the final suppressor charge, a specialized incendiary device designed to ignite a controlled thermal curtain. He pressed the detonator. A wall of intense heat flared, vaporizing nearby tendrils and casting the corridor in searing orange light. The bioagent recoiled, its advance halted by the thermal barrier. But the triumph was short-lived. The nanite bridge began to buckle under micro-fracture stress from the tremors. "Time's up!" Rosier shouted. With the corridor disintegrating behind him, Torin unclipped his bioshield generator and strapped it to Valon's back. "Carry these to the shuttle bay," he ordered, voice calm despite the roar of collapsing metal. Valon hesitated. "Hail!" Torin placed a steady alloy hand on her chassis. "They need you. Go." As Valon and Core sprinted toward the airlock, Torin listened to the final cascade of debris as the tube snapped in half. He exhaled through his suit's filtration mesh, a blend of forced methane and compressed sulfide, conditions hostile to Calarians but his lifeblood, and pressed the override that locked the breach behind him.
His comm crackled. Evacuation complete. Shuttle bay ready.
Then static and silence. Only moments later, the corridor collapsed entirely, the echoes of twisting metal subsiding into the abyss. Soon after, the Resolute Nova orbited overhead as evacuation tugs ferried colonists to the refugee ark Morning Star. Back on the bridge, Draven Core pressed his palm to the viewport, watching the swirling dust below. Captain Valon joined him, voice hushed. Hale's sacrifice saved them. Draven's antennas drooped. He stands as humanity's legacy of courage. 3 rotations later, aboard the Morning Star, Draven stood on the observation deck. The Resolute Nova docked gently at the side port, its hull scarred but intact. Envoy Lissa Laura and Enviro Chief Core escorted a limp but conscious Hale Taurin. His once pristine dome plate bore scorch marks. Soot burns marred his plating, yet his eyes shimmered with life. Taurin inclined to Draven. "Chief Helmsman, ready for new orders?" Draven's copper tips quivered with pride. "If you'll have me." Taurin's grim smile reflected hope. "Council has extended us a permanent station in these sectors. I want you to helm the Resolute Nova as my first officer." Draven grasped Taurin's alloy hand. "I accept." Captain Valon raised her arms. "Then let it be known, wherever death calls, we answer." Through the viewport, the starfield beckoned. The Deathworlders had carved a legacy among the Calarians, and the galaxy would never forget how humanity ran toward the fire when help was needed most.